That's great. All right, welcome. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to some of the members of our care services team. First and foremost, welcome. Welcome to this presentation. My name is Michelle McKenzie. I'm a social worker that covers the New York City region. And we have a representative from each of our regions here, in addition to our support staff, which I will introduce, and then we will continue with our presentation. So to start with, I'd like to introduce Chris Dunn. She is the Intake and Support Manager of Care Services. Chris will often be your first contact with the chapter. She will help register you or your loved one with the chapter and explain our services. She wears a lot of hats, but in addition, she coordinates our volunteer program and our transportation services, and she'll speak more about that later. In addition, we have Kyle Mohammed. He is our equipment loan coordinator, and he covers all of our areas for equipment loan, so he's quite busy. He will be in contact with you after getting a request for equipment, either from the regional team, a clinic, or directly from patient and family. In addition, we have our care services coordinators. We have Bob. Bob Twatson is in the Long Island area. He's an RN. In addition to being one of our contacts of the Long Island team, with his colleague, Teresa Imperato, who's also a nurse, he co-facilitates both support groups, Nassau and Suffolk, and in addition is the ALSA liaison to the Stony Brook Clinic. Okay, next we have Nancy. Hi, Nancy. Nancy Brenner is the social worker that covers the Westchester and Hudson Valley region with her teammate and nurse, Helen Mayer. She is also the ALSA liaison for the Hospital for Special Surgery in the Westchester ALS clinic location. She also co-facilitates 2 support groups in the Westchester Lower Hudson Valley territory and the virtual caregivers support group, which we sort of rotate quarterly. And Cherise Santos is a licensed practical nurse that covers the New Jersey area. Hi, Cherise. With her teammates, nurse Marianne Mertz and social worker Debbie Schlossberg. She is also the ALSA liaison for Hackensack Meridian ALS Clinic. She does facilitate the virtual patient and caregivers support group in addition. And those are virtual groups that are online that she'll talk about more. In addition to being a social worker for the New York City area, I work with Kayvon Freeman, who is the RN, my teammate for my area. I help run the co-facilitate the Bronx support group, and I facilitate the Queens support group. And you're only seeing a portion of the care services team, but we're here today to tell you more about our chapter services. And we are happy to answer any questions that you have at the end of our presentation. In addition, you can always put questions in the chat box. And when we finish, I will also read out the questions that you put in the chat box. And we're happy to be here today. So with that said, I'm going to hand it off to Cherise to start our presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so the Care Services Program, the ALS Association Greater New York Chapter's mission is to improve the quality of life for patients and families living with ALS through the following programs. Multidisciplinary clinics. Our certified centers of excellence and recognized centers provide compassionate care in a supportive, family-oriented atmosphere. Clinic appointments are typically every 3 months. At this time, not all clinics are in person and most are hybrid, which is a combination of virtual and in person. All of the clinics have a liaison from our association. We currently sponsor programs at 8 locations. In New York, Mount Sinai downtown at Union Square in New York City, Columbia University Medical Center in New York City and Tarrytown, Hospital for Special Surgery in New York City and White Plains, Stony Brook University Medical Center in Setauket, Long Island, James J. Peters Veterans Medical Center, for veterans only in the Bronx, Northwell Health in Great Neck, Long Island, and in New Jersey, Hackensack Meridian in Hackensack, New Jersey, and Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School in New Brunswick, New Jersey. We select these regional clinics which have neurological diagnostic testing and imaging. They also have these services, including but not limited to a neurologist, a physical therapist, occupational therapist, respiratory therapy, nursing, registered dietitian services, speech and language pathology, and social work. Please join us tomorrow at 12 p.m. for the session specifically on the importance of the multidisciplinary care model. Thank you, and we'll move on to the next slide.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. So glad you could join us. Again, my name is Nancy Brenner, and I'm a Care Services Coordinator for the Lower Hudson Valley, Westchester areas. And I'm here to talk to you today about support groups and our educational programs. So the ALS Association Greater New York Chapter provides services to several regions, as Michelle had mentioned. The 5
Nancy?
boroughs. Yes?
We're having a very hard time hearing you.
Oh, really? I'm at full volume. Okay. Can you hear me if I talk louder?
You still sound very muted. Does everybody else hear her okay?
No, very muted.
Oh, no, okay. I don't know what to do about that because I'm at full volume.
Can you go to the microphone icon on the bottom of your screen and click the arrow? And then click audio settings at the bottom. And it should pull up a screen where you should see a volume slider in the middle for your microphone only. Make sure that is turned out.
On the bottom of my screen, I'm sorry, don't see that.
On the bottom of where all the Zoom controls are, on the bottom left-hand side, you should see a microphone that says mute.
Yes.
There's a little arrow next to it.
Oh, I see.
We're going to click that and then click audio settings at the bottom of that menu.
Okay.
And in the middle where it says microphone, you should have something that says input volume, and you should be able to turn that up.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha. Can you hear me any better?
Not really. I don't know what's happened between when we started and now.
How about now?
That seems better.
Okay. I'm still okay. And now is that even better?
Yes, much better.
Okay. All right. Sorry, everyone. This is the nature of virtual reality. So again, my name is Nancy Brenner, and I'm a Care Services Coordinator for the Lower Hudson Valley, Westchester areas. I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm here to talk to you about our support groups and our educational programs. And as Michelle mentioned, our chapter services several regions. The 5 boroughs, New Jersey, Long Island, Lower Hudson Valley, and Westchester areas. And each of those areas has a regional care services team that provides support to our families and people with ALS. And part of that support is facilitating support groups. Prior to COVID, we used to meet in person, but unfortunately, we have not been able to do that. We hope to get back in person in the future. And when we do, we'll probably have a hybrid model where people can come in person or also join by video calls. So our support groups, each month you will get, if you're registered with our chapter, each month you're going to get a postcard with information to tell you about all of our support groups and when they are being run. we find that it's very helpful for people to attend the support groups because they realize that they're not alone and they can get some education, support, information, and share ideas. So we have a combination of open discussion and guest speakers. When we have open discussion, it's just that. People can come and talk about whatever's on their mind as it relates to ALS in their lives. And other times we have guest speakers. And when we have guest speakers, they provide education, community resources, and it's an opportunity for people to really learn something new. We've had, for example, Ask the Doc evening where a doctor who's familiar with ALS comes and talks about a little bit about ALS, but also answers questions. We've also had an elder law attorney come to talk about long-term planning. There's actually going to be a session on applying for Medicaid in this summit. And we hope that everybody who comes to the support groups knows that it's a safe space where they can come, know they're not alone, feel understood, share information and resources. We also have several other opportunities for people to come to a support group. So I'm going to discuss those now. We have weekly telephone support groups. One is for people with ALS and one is for caregivers. These run each week by our coworker, Sue Zimmerman. We have a virtual support group that is facilitated by our very own Charisse, who's here today. That is a group that's for both caregivers and people with ALS, and that's run on the Zoom platform. We have a Bronx support group it's held at the Bronx Veterans Administration. It's for veterans, but it's also open to anybody else who would like to come, and that's on a video platform. And lastly, we have a virtual caregiver group that's just for caregivers so that they can get to know other caregivers. They don't feel alone. They can talk about their challenges and the specific issues to them in their role as a caregiver. What we have found with running everything on the Zoom platform is that we've had some unexpected benefits. So for example, in one of the groups that I led, we were talking about renovations, and this gentleman had recently done a renovation in his bathroom. And so he was able to take his computer into the bathroom and show everybody the work that was done. And it was really helpful for people to visually see what could be managed. And then someone else took her computer upstairs into their bedroom and showed pieces of equipment that they had found helpful, in particular for her husband. But it was really helpful for other people to see that. Other benefits have been that people who couldn't come to a support group can now come. They can just turn on their computer and you're there. So these were kind of the silver linings of doing things differently this past year. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk to you about the educational programs that we have. This is the first year that we're having this summit, and we're really excited to be able to bring you so much information over the next few days. Our regional care teams do in-services for the local communities that we service. Not all professionals are familiar with what ALS is. So we go out and we provide education on what ALS is, but also on what the ALS Association can provide. And not only does it provide education, but it also builds relationships with the resources for our community. We might have a newly diagnosed group, which is for people who are newly diagnosed. And it is a benefit to meet with other newly diagnosed people, get some education, make sure that you don't feel alone. We want everybody to have the opportunity to know that there's a lot of support for them. We might also have a caregiver seminar throughout the course of a year. That would be just specifically for caregivers so that they could come together with other caregivers who are going through similar things. It's a unique role, some that it's, with a lot of challenges, and to have a caregiver seminar allows education, a time to get together to talk about people's feelings, their experiences, and to also learn some techniques for self-care. And when someone has ALS, it affects the whole family. So our chapter uh, provides programs for children and teens as well. It could be something as simple as pizza in the office when we're able to get back together, or doing an art project, going to a show, doing a sip and paint. Kids need to know that they're not alone and that they're not the only one with a parent or a grandparent or an aunt and uncle who have ALS. And lastly, we offer research symposia, and that is where leading members of the community, the medical community, come together to give the latest updates on research and advancements in the area. And I hope that this information has been helpful to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or reach out to us. We're here to help you in any way that we can. Thank you so much.
So hello everyone, welcome, and a big thank you to all joining us today. My name is Kyle Muhammad. I joined the ALS Association's Greater New York chapter about 2 years ago. My role within the chapter is the coordinator for the equipment loan program. And in a nutshell, as program coordinator, I serve as the central communication hub to further the program's day-to-day operations. So what is the equipment loan program? I will try to be brief. Respectfully, the ALS Association has organized a professional program to loan out various equipment types for someone living with ALS. We rely on referrals from therapists at the ALS clinics and elsewhere for recommendations of equipment. Someone who turns to the equipment loan program can be waiting for insurance approval, but needs equipment soon as possible. Or maybe their insurance company does not cover the equipment, or perhaps they're just uninsured. So the program exists to help in these types of circumstances. The program offers 2 types of equipment. The first one is durable medical equipment, also known as DME. This is any equipment that provides a therapeutic benefit to someone in need because of a medical condition. It's called durable because it is reusable. So the program mainly offers DME equipment for positioning and mobility. To give an example, this means various wheelchairs ranging from standard manual types to the more complex power tilt and recline wheelchair. So we also offer adjustable hospital beds or patient lifts, even a pressure reducing support surface such as a high profile air cushion or an alternating air pressure mattress. And to provide this equipment, the ALS Association has partnered up with professional durable medical equipment companies who help us maintain and distribute this equipment. One company is called 101 Mobility. Their precise location is in North White Plains, New York. They help us serve the ALS community in the Lower Hudson Valley and Westchester area. The second company involved is called National Seating and Mobility, who services our ALS community in New York City, Long Island, and the New Jersey area under our chapter's care. So next slide, please. Now on to the second side to the equipment loan program called the Augmentative Communications Program. This side of the equipment loan program exists to assist in communication for speech and mobility impairments. This is done in a combined effort by myself, the program's coordinator, and the loan program's head, my colleague, Mr. Ben Lehman. Together, we maintain and distribute different types of AAC equipment out of our chapter's office. So what is AAC equipment? It stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. Augmentative devices are used by people who have some or limited speaking ability. Alternative communication devices are used for someone with no speech. Some examples of these equipment types are communication boards, an iPad that uses text-to-speech communication apps, or the more advanced eye gaze computer that uses your eye movement with text-to-speech software. So all equipment from our loan program is subject to availability, but more importantly, this program is a free service provided by the ALS Association. Our goal is to provide proper equipment and assistive devices to those living with ALS to maintain their safety and quality of life. And that's it really. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. Thank you for listening. And, yep.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Twissard. I'm a registered nurse, and I service the Long Island service area with Teresa Imperato. My role is as a liaison to the Stony Brook ALS Clinic, as well as outreach to the community through home visits, telephone outreach, text, emails, however best I can communicate with families and meet their needs. Basically, I provide home visits that will provide care coordination, referral, and support to ALS patients, families, caregivers. Home visits are generally conducted by RNs, LPNs, social workers, and technology assistants. Our aim in these home visits are to provide people with ALS, as well as family caregivers, with dignity, respect, sensitivity, while respecting cultural preferences. We provide person-centered assessments via in person when we're in non-pandemic times, currently by Zoom, or if people don't have the technology, we will then conduct it by phone to enhance the quality of life, support the patient's independence, as long as safety is maintained. Safety is our goal always. We strive to integrate your care with your care team, with your community resources, and those supporting you in your home. We provide ongoing communication post your clinic visit through the initial home visit, by telephone, Zoom visits, text, emails. We're available Monday through Friday, typically 9 to 5 to support you. We, on occasion, will respond at other times. At the same time, we will look to see what frequency you wish to engage on. Somebody's going through a crisis, we may be in touch with you on a daily basis, 3 times a week basis, otherwise generally on a monthly or periodic basis as agreed between yourself and ourselves, and it can be always changed as your situation changes. Some other aspects in our home visits that we will include are current and future support systems. It's a real key piece to find out who's supporting you as you're either early diagnosed, you're midway, or in the middle of your end of your journey. Are those support systems in place supporting you as well as they could be, or can we try to enhance them through other things like family agencies and other? We'll identify again, present and future, all your needs are evolving. So we are adjusting them as we go along. Sometimes we have to enhance them. Sometimes we have to pull back based on what your needs are at the time and how much you want to be supported. Again, we're going to look to see, do you have, what type of insurances? Are you a VA that's going to have much assistance provided to them in their home, through their clinic? And we will additionally support them for those gaps if they even present. Other people might be working with a managed care organization, long-term care, may have long-term care insurance, other resources, donations, will identify your equipment needs for current and your transitional needs going forward. So you may need just a simple walker or cane in the beginning. You may transition to hospital bed, Hoyer lifts, and other equipment that help. And as Kyle mentioned, augmentative communication devices for those people that have speech or swallow issues that would be best to enhance. May be as simple as having our technologists make a home visit and talk to you about apps that are available on your iPad or your phone itself. Again, assessing safety and risk potentials. Always when we make a first initial visit and ongoing, want to look at how could you evacuate if you needed to? Are you able to evacuate? What resources would be needed? And do we have a plan? Because, you know, when emergencies arise, whether it's exiting for the hospital or it's exiting because of a storm or power outage, we want to be in a prepared state rather than trying to address it through chaos. Again, we want to look at how your wishes are going to be fulfilled along the way. And these are difficult conversations, but should start early. Anybody 18 or older should be really having these discussions of who would I like to have as a healthcare proxy? God forbid an event happened, what would my wishes be? So people can work on your behalf and they can be known to those that are responding to your situation, whether it's emergency medical services, whether it's your doctor, whether it's the hospital that you're being admitted to. Again, we're going to look at other things like what's your education need on the diagnosis, where are you in your journey? The newly diagnosed are going to have a wealth of questions. And as I mentioned to people, no question is a silly question. We're dealing with your journey. It's individualized as well as it's looked at how does it affect many others. But we want to assess that trajectory in whatever need it may be. There are many resources we're going to point out to you for websites, information. You don't get the information once, you're overwhelmed. We'll provide it at the key levels that you need to have it. Again, other information, maybe resources for a better quality life. What are agencies in the community that might serve you? What are things through the clinic that might be available to you? What are available through our chapter and other foundations that might be helping people along this journey? As we mentioned, later on today, there'll be a discussion or tomorrow on elder care consultation, very key aspect as people's needs are changing. It's a good thing to look into early. If you're looking at anything of Medicaid, community, long-term care, you're going to work with an attorney, work with specialized people, will work with you in order to set a profile that best helps you for future needs for custodial care and future keeping your assets where you want them to be. Additionally, we want to work with agencies to augmenting caregiver services that might be home care agencies for a temporary service while skilled nature of care is in there. It may be home care, private pay. It might be palliative or hospice. And again, other educational would be in our recent days with the pandemic, we've done lots of teaching on the ongoing. When March came in, COVID was unknown to all of us. We're all learning as we went, trying to provide families, friends, information from New York Department of Health, from the CDC, from New York State, and the region that we're working on, because they were all specifically being driven by statistics in their own areas. Again, of late, we've been helping people with COVID vaccine and scheduling, or what are sites that you can find, because of the myriad of things that came upon us so quickly was very overwhelming for many people. So we, on a regular basis, work with people of educating them on what resources may be available. When we look at this, we look at all the decisions in your individual journey. Next slide. Care management, for those people that may have some more complexity within their journey, we have additional resources that are made available to your regional team. Sue Zimmerman, who leads our care management department, works with families, will basically make sure that how can we best resolve those complex issues and transition you back to your regional staff team for support. Basically, it's an ongoing process. Everybody's need is different. Everybody's need through support groups can be augmented and learn the lessons that work best for them and maybe incorporated back into yourselves through our patient service care team, through our support groups, through our clinic team. So there's many people trying to provide you support in all the environments. If you have questions, please type them in the chat box. If questions are not gotten to, we will have somebody from our team get back to you after the summit. Glad you could join us today, and hope you have lots of questions that we can answer and keep the clarity of your journey with you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chris, and thank you for joining us today. So I'm just going to speak about some of the services that the chapter provides, and one of them is the transportation program. The chapter may provide transportation to and from your ALS Center clinic appointment for patients who have difficulty traveling. Once you have seen your neurologist and you have set up your follow-up appointment at an ALS center where you will see your disciplinary team, we may be able to provide transportation. This program allows for you to receive transportation every 3 months. This can either be a car service or a handicapped accessible ambulette. If you do need transportation, you can request it by asking your clinic coordinator, your chapter liaison, who will then let me know, or you can just call me directly. Typically, we like to have about a week's notice to be able to provide that. We do hope that this program will give you one less thing to worry about on the day of your appointment, knowing that we can provide a safe way for you to get to your center. Please note that this program is only for ALS clinic appointments. If you need rides to other places such as doctor's appointments or shopping, things like that, we suggest that you apply for paratransit in your community. If you need help with that, I can certainly help you with that, as well as provide and recommend ambulance transportation company referrals. Next slide, please. The volunteer program. Volunteers may provide social and practical assistance to both the patient and the caregiver to help improve and enrich their lives. We do have volunteers throughout all of our regions. Volunteers can provide companionship to you as well as your caregiver or family member. Based on location, interest, and need, we do our best to match you up with someone that we believe will be appropriate for you. So what kind of things can a volunteer do? Volunteers can do things like watch a movie with you, read with you, run an errand for you, play cards, things like that. Volunteers are not able to provide hands-on medical assistance. The frequency of the volunteer visits is really up to you and your volunteer. Once you have a volunteer, we will check in with you and with them on a regular basis to see how things are going. At this time, due to COVID-19 safety protocols, our volunteer program is suspended. However, if you are interested in either having a volunteer visit or in becoming a volunteer, please call me and I will put your name on our volunteer list and contact you when the program starts up again. Next slide, please. Home care referral program. We will provide a list of private care home health attendants, as well as a list of home care agencies. So at some point in your journey, you may find yourself in need of home care. The chapter has a list of home health attendants that have been recommended to us by other families. This means that these home health aides do have experience working with ALS patients. This list is private pay home care aides as well as home care agencies. The home care attendants on this list do not work for the chapter and are provided as referrals only. This list will be sent to you by me on an email along with some other documents we are required to send. Because individuals' needs vary, once you have received the list, I am available to discuss it with you further and help you find someone to hire to help take care of you or your loved one. Next slide, please. The National ALS Registry. Data from the CDC's National ALS Registry is being used to help understand who gets ALS and why. For more information about the registry, you can visit www.cdc.gov/ALS. So the National ALS Registry is a program to collect, manage, and analyze data about persons with ALS. It includes data from existing national databases and information provided by persons with ALS who do choose to participate. Researchers can use registry data to look for disease pattern changes over time and try to identify whether there are common risk factors among people with ALS. Additionally, the registry provides updated links for participant resources like ALS clinical trials. Again, the website to register is www.cdc.gov/ALS. If you do need help to register, you can call me and I can help you to register. So if you are interested in any of these programs, please call me directly. My number is 212-720-3044. And again, we hope that these services will help you on your journey. And thank you for joining us today.
That was great. Thank you so much. All right, so if anyone has questions, please put them into the chat box. I have a few questions to start, but I will definitely keep monitoring the question and answer box. Okay, so the first question is, and I'm going to just direct it to each person, but of course other people can jump in. But Bob, what can I expect at a virtual home visit? What's the purpose of the visit?
One, introduce, establish ongoing trust, basically identify what's going on in the home that we may not have noticed in the clinic or another setting. Basically, people don't always relate all the information. Sometimes an eyes-on, seeing scatter rugs, seeing a bathroom without handrails, seeing a refrigerator that's bare, seeing that somebody is much more anxious when we're seeing them over a little longer period, and what are the ongoing resources that might help them to maintain a more comfortable and quality of life.
And if I could add to that, it's just a great opportunity for us to get to know you, to see you in your environment, for you to get to know us, and to know that we're here as a support to you, and we want to help you in any way that we can. You've heard about all of our resources and all of our services, and we will remind you of them and encourage you to participate in them.
Yeah, that's great. I love that answer. I think it's true. When you see somebody face to face, then they feel more comfortable reaching out to us again when they need help. So that's definitely important. Okay, I have another question. This one's for Kyle. Kyle, what is the expected time from request of equipment to delivery?
So that is a great question, and it's a bit of a variable. It depends on the region we're talking about, because each region has its own loan closet location. And also it depends on the specific piece of equipment. I would say a good estimate is a 2 to 3 week wait time from the request to the delivery. And to go into a little bit more detail, as I mentioned, certain pieces of equipment have different procedures. Because of COVID, now we have to make sure everything is completely sanitized. But more importantly, before we send out a piece of equipment, we want to make sure that it is 100% operable. So that would take longer for a power wheelchair, let's say, compared to a standard wheelchair. But I would say generally 2 to 3 weeks. I hope that answered the question.
It does, and I actually have a piggyback question. If I need a piece of equipment, how do I go about getting one? And how do I know exactly what I need? What is your recommendation?
Okay, so about what someone needs, well, that conversation should happen at the ALS clinic with the respective physical or occupational therapist, or even a respiratory therapist. We at the ALS Association, we do not determine what equipment someone should have. My goal is to be informative and describe the equipment and get you that equipment if it's chosen by your respective therapist. How you can get the equipment from us, it starts with a simple phone call. You can call us directly to just start the process, or you can start it at the ALS clinic, either way.
And I'd like to add to that too, if that's okay. I'll be the Badinsky. Now that I'm comfortable and I finished my presentation, I'm way more comfortable. So also when we do home visits, it's part of what we assess. We see how you're managing and what pieces of equipment might be helpful for you. So then we can be in touch with Kyle or with the clinic to make sure that it's an appropriate piece of equipment and try to get you what you need.
And just another thing, even in the telephone call, sometimes you'll hear in someone's voice, starting to get weaker, and you'll ask, is it upper or lower? I know you were using a cane before. Are you safely being able to still use that, or are you using another piece of equipment? And then we can put in that request to Kyle additionally. So all our different venues, we listen for different cues that you might be giving subtly or not so subtly to say, let's see if we can support you with another piece of transitional equipment. And like we say, the loaner closet is just wonderful. And then we look to see where donations are coming out of other families that might assist you in your need also.
All right, that's great. Excellent. Okay, so this is for the care services team. Again, it's going to be Nancy, Sharice, and Bob. So maybe Nancy first. What's the difference between a nurse and social worker in terms of what kind of questions we can ask you?
Okay, well, you can ask either of us any questions, but I often will refer to my partner, who's a nurse, for the medical things. You know, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. So I defer those things to her. Anything related to how you're feeling, how you are emotionally, how I can support you, resources, benefits, finances, those are all things that I can try to help you with. And I'm more than happy to help you with. And that goes for all of our care services team. We are available to you and we want you to reach out to us in any way that's comfortable for you. If that's email, that's fine. Phone call, text, any way that is most comfortable for you. We want you to know we are here and available to help you.
Yes, and I would just piggyback on what Nancy said. If someone has a question that's more for Debbie, the social worker, then I will definitely forward to her. It has to do with Medicare, Medicaid, benefits, psychosocial assistance, any type of housing resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then if it's medical, then I would take care of the question.
Yeah. And remember, it's a good point also that each region is also a little different. So the appropriate region will be the one responding back to you, because New Jersey is definitely different than New York City, and even Long Island. When you're applying for different things, there are different things that need to get done. So that's why we have the regional teams, to make sure that you get the right correct response and answer to your questions. Okay, we have another question, and this one is more of a subjective question. So I'm just going to put it out there, whoever wants to answer. How long does it typically take a patient to get used to an AAC device? So,
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll try my best to answer that. I feel like it's a case by case basis. So it depends on the person's ability to grasp whatever that device might be. You know, there's simple devices, and I don't think it takes very long at all. But then the more complex devices, you know, it may take a week or two. I guess it all depends on how much time the person puts in and their support system. You know, I think that's a big deal for the person living with ALS, that they have the support system in place to help them learn the device.
And it is a learning curve. So people need to be gentle with themselves and give themselves the time that it takes to practice and to get used to using a device. We find that once people do that, if they really do put in the time and they have the support to help them, it really opens up a lot of communication for them. So stick with it if you can.
Have to have an open mind as you start to need a new piece of equipment, whether it's augmentative or respiratory or other. It's about having an open mind. It's about taking it and using it in small intervals so that you don't get frustrated. And then also, practice makes perfect. It does take time and patience, but we're going nowhere, and we're here to reinforce and re-support you, whether it's ourselves or the technician that's giving you the equipment.
okay, great. We have another question. So is my chapter team determined by where I live or where my doctor is? How do I find out who my chapter team is? And are you able to help my family, not just the pals?
So chapter team, meaning the region?
Yes, the regional team.
So in New Jersey, then you would have Debbie, Marianne, and myself. But that doesn't mean that you have to see a doctor in New Jersey. you can go to a clinic in New York, and vice versa. New York can come to New Jersey.
And if you're registered with our chapter, then we know about you. And so the regional team will reach out to you.
It's not uncommon to be in a service area and, like Cherie says, someone's on Long Island, they're going to hospital for special surgery, or Columbia or Beth Israel, and they're residing on Long Island. They may even transition back to the Long Island service area if it gets too tiring for them to make that journey down the road. So we follow you wherever you choose to be followed, from your service area back to whichever doctor. We may even follow you with a community-based doctor. So we just adapt to what you need based that you're on our service area.
And some people, the way people get registered is some people find us on the internet. Some people call into the office. Sometimes we get referrals from the clinics. Sometimes people will call us directly because our names are out there on our website. So there are a lot of different ways that people can initially get connected with us.
Okay, so I also have a follow-up question. What does registered with the chapter mean, Chris? And can you tell us more about how that process works?
Sure. So registered with the chapter basically means that we did an initial intake phone call. It's basic information in our computer database of just general information, name, address, date of birth, where you were diagnosed, where you go to clinic. So basically, if you call in and I do the initial call, I enter your information into our computer, and then we'll talk to you about the various services we provide. Probably follow up with an email that outlines the services, all of our support groups, and then I refer you to the regional team from where you live. Does that answer the question?
Yes, excellent. All right, we're back to another question for Kyle. How long does it take to get an AAC equipment such as an eye gaze communication device?
So I think I did not mention this earlier. Our equipment supply is afforded to us on a donation basis, but I did say it's subject to availability. So if one is available, it would not take very long. But again, it's a popular device, so a lot of people are requesting it. A lot of people are in need, and supplies are short. So I wish I can give you a timeline, but I don't think I can. Sorry.
Okay, and I'm going to put it to our care services team. So if we don't have one at the chapter to provide one, how can I go about getting an AAC device such as an eye gaze?
We're
Through
going
the
to
clinic.
look to our partners. That might be the Gleason Foundation. It might be through Bridging Voice. It might be through other sources that someone that may have had equipment that now identifies that they're no longer wanting to hold on, and then we'll send an email to Loaner Closet as well as to the team to say this has just become available. So we have our eyes and ears open for things that are emerging as they occur, if you want to say.
And you can go for a communication evaluation at a particular facility. Like in my area, it's Helen Hayes. And then you get to test out the devices and tailor it for you and for your needs. So that's another way that you can get one.
Another great place is Bridging Voice.
All right. Oh, excellent. Okay. Are there any support services for young adults that have a connection to ALS? Can anyone speak about maybe the young adults?
Well, we have the YPG group, the Young Professionals group, that if you're interested in, that is on our website, but we can always get you the info on how to join that. And it's 21 years and older, and they volunteer a lot. They have happy hours. They have a lot of meetings, and they're really just very supportive. They help with the walks, and anything that they can do to help, they'll want to stay connected for sure.
All right, excellent. So this one's for Chris. Chris, does the chapter provide home health aides?
No, the chapter does not provide home health aides. It's specific, just referrals. We do, like I said earlier, we do have a list of home health attendants that have been recommended to us throughout the years, as well as home care agencies, but we do not provide home care. And I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought. We don't, they do not work for us. They're all independent contractors that work for themselves. I wish that we did.
All right, that's great. Okay, another question here is, will I see you at my clinic visits? Who from the chapter is there? And what is a chapter liaison at a clinic?
So a chapter liaison represents the ALS Association during a clinic visit. So will see, you'll see us when you go to your visits. But right now, because of COVID, things are a little bit different. So not all clinics have the liaisons going in person yet. Again, yet. And you'll see. So was the question, who else will I see at the clinic, or just
Yeah,
with the lead?
Will I see you at the clinic? If you're my regional team, will I see you at the clinic?
You won't see the regional team. You'll just see the liaison. And so that liaison may not be your regional team. Okay, so it won't, you'll see one person, possibly from your region, but possibly not.
Right.
Okay, I hope that answered that question.
Okay, we have this one's more, it is a comment. Thank you for talking about the National Registry. As an ALS patient, it is our job to help them to help us, and hopefully all clinics hand out information about the National Registry to newly diagnosed patients.
And the National Registry is something that we also talk about when we initially meet someone, because it is a very valuable and important piece of the puzzle. You know, it is a database that collects information on who has ALS, and they do research to try to figure out why is this happening and what could be done. So it is very important. If people don't register, then the information isn't out there.
Right.
And
And just
sometimes,
another point. After your clinic visit, we often re-discuss many of the topics that were covered, because when you're seeing a team of many people over an hour and a half to 3 hours, much goes over your head. And we want to make sure that you were able to clarify what really went on that day and reinforce what you might have heard and what you might have missed. So many of the things from the registry to even just some of the simple things that when they met the PT person or the respiratory person or the physician, people may want clarity on what they were. And if we don't have the answer exactly to what it was, we'll go back to that professional and seek that out for the person.
and I just want to remind everyone, I've
Pick up.
received calls over the years from people saying, it's a little confusing. I don't know what I'm doing to register. So I am here for you. If you need me, you can call me and I can help get you registered with the National Registry.
Great.
And
Okay.
really quick, I just want to add, at the clinics that are in person right now, the liaison will give an info pack, and there is the National Registry pamphlets inside that. So we will go over that. So the clinic does give the information.
All right, great. Okay, we have several more questions. One is, if my family has a piece of equipment we'd like to donate to the chapter's loan program, who should we contact? Can anyone donate? And do you have to live in New York or New Jersey to donate equipment?
So I'll start with, where do you live? If you live in New York and New Jersey and you're under our chapter scope of care, then yes, you can donate. Anyone can donate to us, but we are looking for specific pieces of equipment. So as I mentioned before, our program deals with mostly mobility equipment, DME equipment, of course, but not all of it. So we don't handle respiratory equipment. We don't handle equipment that is easily obtainable from insurance. So we want certain pieces of equipment, and if you want to donate something, you just call the chapter office and get in touch with me or Ben.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Okay. Does the chapter provide or refer to lawyers to help patients prepare with legal matters, such as preparing for a power of attorney? Before I have the team answer, just remind you that today is the presentation by elder care attorneys at 5 o'clock. So whether you're New York, New Jersey, or a veteran, that's happening later on today. So, but go ahead. If Nancy, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we do have contact people that we can refer you to, elder law attorneys or other experts. And we are happy to give you names of people, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to use them or not. But we do have information we can help you with.
Oh, great. Okay, Kyle, does ALS Association provide home evaluations for modification, or do they provide modifications to a home?
So we do not provide the modifications to the home, but we'll guide you in that process. We do have a consultation done by my colleague Ben, and I think he's going to speak more about that tomorrow. So again, we do start you with information and resources to do that, but we do not make that happen, so to speak. You know, we give you the information, but it's up to the person to follow up and make it happen.
And just to add to that, if you're a veteran, veterans have benefits that can help with renovations, and there is going to be a talk on that, from the VA as well. So you might want to jump on that call.
All right, couple more questions. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Yes, I was going to say, if you're in a managed care plan, we'll redirect you back with your care manager, because usually you're entitled to a one-time, once a year, a modification that will be covered under Medicaid. They'll evaluate, it has to be pre-authorized. And additionally, there are community resources in your service area. Like there are places that work with disability people, and whether it's a ramp or it's a remodel in the house. And actually, Habitat for Humanity, at least on Long Island, is just starting a thing called Project Restore. So they're doing remodeling projects that are just beginning to happen. They're not all in the works yet, versus building a house. So there'll be many resources that we'll try to bring to your fingertips as possible.
Okay, we also have another comment that says, often the ALS Greater New York liaison at the clinic can be helpful if your clinic isn't being responsive to your questions or your needs. So that clearly is from a patient. Thank you very much for saying that. That's what the purpose is why we're there. Go ahead, Sharice.
It's true. You can always contact us, and we can always guide that conversation or get you whatever you need.
Excellent, which is a great follow-up, actually, because the next question is, can I change clinics if I'm not happy with my current clinic?
Yes, sure, you can. Absolutely. Not everyone has a good vibe with their doctor or their clinic team. You know, that goes to for anyone. You could always change clinics. We have plenty to choose from, and it's understandable if you don't, have a good fit with someone that you would want to switch, and it's whatever you're the most comfortable with.
The thing to remember is that you're in control. So you have the ability to make your own choices for what works best for you. And we're just here to help you do that.
And you don't even have to be unhappy with your clinic. It just might be too far for you to travel, even though Zoom is available today. That if some people will change from having had multiple clinic evaluations, they land up in Manhattan and then find out that I really want to be closer to home, and they can make that transition as they see fit. So we're here to support you on every level.
All right, great. Okay, another question. I'm worried about my caregiver. They're taking on a lot right now. What kind of caregiver support do you provide?
So we have support groups for caregivers. So we have the telephone call-in support group that meets weekly. We have the virtual caregiver support group that meets the fourth Monday of every month. So there's a lot of support there where caregivers can gather together and talk about what's going on for them. It's a challenging role. And so that's why we offer those groups. But in addition to that, we are also here as a support. So the care services team can certainly talk to you. We can refer you if you need extra counseling. We can give you some tips on self-care. It's really important to take care of yourself when you're a caregiver. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do because we always think as caregivers, the other person needs more than I need, but you need to feed yourself too in order to take care of your loved one. So reach out to us. If you're struggling, please reach out to us.
Right, and in many of these one-on-one conversations, we'll try to talk about caregiver burnout in advance of it happening. A lot of people have guilt, sometimes surrendering part of the care to other people that might not be directly in the family, and maybe how to introduce other people, whether they be family, friends, or agencies to come in and support you during the journey that you're having.
Great. Okay. All right. Here's another question. I was just recently diagnosed with ALS. Am I entitled to Medicare? I am under 65 years old.
So if you have a diagnosis of ALS, you are entitled to apply for Medicare. And just recently, the laws have changed, and so you are able to get Medicare and Social Security disability right away. And if you have more questions about that, reach out to your care services team. And if you're not registered, make sure to register so we can help you.
All right, great. All right. I have a loved one who I think would really benefit from attending a support group, but they're resistant to the idea. Any recommendations on what to do in this situation?
Well, we can't force somebody to come to a support group. You can just encourage them and remind them each month that it's available for them. We also can remind them that there are support groups, but somebody has to really, they have to want to come.
Sometimes,
sometimes, sorry, Chris. Sorry, go ahead.
sometimes I'll tell someone, just if it's a Zoom, sign on, but you don't have to be seen. You don't have to speak. You can just listen just to see if it's something that is helpful to you don't have to participate. Because some people are afraid to participate, especially when they're new. And I'll say to them, just sign on and see what it's like. And they usually say, yeah, you were right. I really got something out of it. So
that's such a great idea. And that's, again, a benefit of the Zoom platform.
Yeah.
We're
People
collecting
have changes
benefits.
of hearts too. They have change of hearts. They might not want to do it for, let's just say a year, and then they change their mind, and then they become part of the group, monthly, and they just, it takes some time for some people.
And what I think is really so great about our groups are that we do have separate ones for patients and families. So it's a safe place for a caregiver to maybe, talk about the stress they're feeling without making the person feel bad that they're a burden or something. So, we have such a good variety of groups. I think that it's a great service. Like Nancy said, especially now that they're all on Zoom, you don't have to travel. So, and you still feel connected. I join them myself because I find that it's a nice connection to people.
And I think sometimes people are afraid. They don't know what to expect. If they've never been to a support group, it could be intimidating. But once people come, they usually do find that it's a warm and welcoming environment, and it's easy to share if you want to. And if you don't want to, you don't have to, like Chris said. So, we always encourage people to come, to give it a try when they're ready.
I think also sometimes people
meeting.
hear support group and they think it's a therapy session, and it's not. It's definitely where you can connect with other people, but it's also very educational. So sometimes you can just pop on because you want to hear the presenter speak about something educational, and it's a good introduction to joining a support group.
Oh, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I just want to let people know that because all of our groups are on the Zoom platform now, people from any region can join any support group. Geography does not matter right now. So if there's a topic of interest to you and you live in the Hudson Valley, but the speaker is on Long Island group, you can join. So there's
We had someone join from Costa Rica on the virtual support group not too long ago.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you know, anybody
Yeah,
can
that
join.
was very cool.
It was.
All right. I'm having trouble getting my pals a COVID-19 vaccine appointment. What do you recommend? So the answer is going to be.
I recommend call Michelle.
Depends on where you live, you know, and then if you need help in New Jersey, then I can help with that. So it depends on where the person lives. If you live in New Jersey, please reach out to me. My number is on the attendees list.
Yeah, I think reaching out to your regional team is the first and best start, because they'll be able to find out exactly where you live and help you find either location, or if it's homebound, they're just starting the process of doing homebound vaccinations in New York anyway. All right. I think, oh, all right. Okay, where do I find out what's being discussed at support groups? I guess that also, to expand that question, and sort of the calendar of events for that month. Do you want to take that, Chris?
So yeah, each month a mailing will go out either by regular mail or email or both. And it's a postcard that lists all the meetings for that month with the topics and the speakers. And it's, you know, sent out pretty far in advance so that you can prepare if it's something that you would like to join for the following month. And in addition to that, if we do have your email address on file, I send out reminders every month for each group a few days before. So I think I covered it, right?
And if I'm not registered yet with a chapter, how can I find about the support group information?
You can go to the website.
Excellent.
And all the groups should be on the website every month. I forget that because I hardly ever go to the website. I think it's als-ny.org. And there you can go to somewhere there's a tab that says patients, I believe, and you can click on there and go to support groups, and you'll see all the groups for that month. And you can even go back if you were interested in seeing what happened in the past. Or you can just call any of us and we can tell you.
All right, that's great. Okay. And we have a few more minutes. If anyone has a question that hasn't been asked by somebody else and they're dying to ask, please type it into the box now, and I'll be happy to ask our panel. Okay, one other question is, you discussed transportation. Is there any criteria that I have to meet for getting transportation? And is it just for a clinic visit?
So the criteria is basically that you have a diagnosis of ALS. As everybody in the world knows, I like to give transportation to everyone, but sometimes, you know, we just can't do it. It's basically for the quarterly appointments. So the criteria is that you have a diagnosis of ALS, you're going to a quarterly appointment, and you don't really have another way to get there, but that's also a generalization. So if you have Medicaid, typically Medicaid will cover transportation. However, I still say to reach out to us because we do make exceptions, because sometimes it's just too much for someone to have to travel in an ambulance with other people or to make stops, things like that. So our transportation program is completely private. It's just you, whoever your family members are, and the driver. And what other criteria? So that's about it, that you have a diagnosis of ALS, you are going to a quarterly appointment and you really don't have another way to get there. But always feel free to reach out and ask, because there are exceptions to some of these rules.
And just to clarify, the paratransportation will be with other people, but if it's through Medicaid, it's just for the patient going to the appointment. So we'll not be picking up other people. So that's it's still a good resource to use, but not everyone has that availability right away. For some reason, sometimes they have to wait a little bit period of time. Okay, so Adele, so somebody asked, will you take someone on a ventilator? Sorry, I know you. So I said, so will you take somebody on a ventilator for transportation?
Yes.
All right. So that might be an issue if that's currently not possible with your current insurance situation. But again, reach out to your regional team and they'll be happy to also help you work with whatever insurance you have if you're having difficulty. And okay.
These are great questions, by the way. Thank you for them.
Yeah, they're really good. We're having a very active discussion over here, which is wonderful. Okay, so I think we're really coming by. We only have 4 more minutes left. I'm going to actually
Can I just add? Sorry, I wanted to add something real quick, Michelle, about the transportation, right, Chris? It has to be one of our clinics, not a doctor's appointment.
Correct.
You probably said that, maybe you did, but it has to be one of our clinics. It can't be to, a clinic in Pennsylvania, let's just say. It has to be one of our centers, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I was actually going to just put it back to you guys. If there's any other things you want to address or say before we finish out the session, because we only have a few more minutes. So anything else about equipment, chapter services, home visits, social work, nursing?
I just want to say one thing, that whatever you read in the informational packet or you see online, always still ask us anyway, because things change and things are, like I said earlier, sometimes we have to break the rules a little bit. I don't know if they're rules, but always ask anyway. It doesn't hurt to ask. That's what I always say. Don't just go by what's written.
And check out the website, because it has up-to-date information on research and programs. It has a lot of really great information. And we also have a blog, so you can check that out too. I don't know if it's possible to put up that last slide again to Sharice, maybe not. We may not have time, because that had our contact information.
Yeah, I could try. And I also just wanted to mention real quick for people to don't forget to register for our walks. Okay. There is our contact information for the chapter.
And so if you don't know who your regional team is, you don't know who your social worker or nurse is, definitely call this number, reach out, and Chris will make sure that you get connected to your regional team. And as she said before, even if it's on our website or you have another question but you think is answered, please ask us, because if it's not there, then we can always point you to another regional resource that we know about that you might not know about. So definitely reach out to us if you have any questions, and we hope to be helpful.
Yeah. Just know you're not alone, and we're here for you.
Thank you all for coming.
And we really mean it.
We do.
Thank
Don't hesitate
you.
to reach out. Take care.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for presenting, and we hope to hear from you soon.